Interesting article here. Everyone knows my feelings on the terrible movie and how they were just like all that expanded universe and everything. Never mind that, because we're going to tell our really boring small story about characters that, you could just give or take. No one really buys the toys of them, and they're all that's left. So, aren't you glad you wasted your fandom all these years? Aren't you glad? Luke just sort of fades away. That's what I thought was going to happen in Return of the Jedi. That's what we all wanted to see. It's like they started the movie, The Force Awakens, right after all the events you wanted to see after Return of the Jedi. That's when they decided to start this movie at that point with this fucking Rey girl. Who? What? Who? Just so, yeah, don't even. I can answer who. Just some fucking nobody. That's who. Just some nobody. It could be you. I guess that's the. It could be you. Anyway, we're not here to review it. I've done this. I've tried to record this like 6 times now. I end up reviewing it every time. So I'm not going to review this dirt. Yeah, I'm not even going to. The reaction in Japan to The Last Jedi has been decidedly mixed. Decidedly mixed. This is from Ollie Barder on Forbes. What with Star Wars The Last Jedi recently released across the world, the Japanese reaction to the film has been quite mixed. Before I start, it's worth noting that that Star Wars in Japan has always been hugely popular. This should come as no real surprise, as the original trilogy of films wears the Japanese influence on their sleeve. From all the references to Akira Kurosawa's movies, to the Jedi effectively being space-based samurai, well, knights, I mean, I guess samurai as well, but knights, to the fact that even the name Jedi comes from the Japanese word Jedi Geki. In short, Star Wars has. I imagine that was something that was like a coincidence that people found out later on. I imagine George Lucas was just like, they're going to have swords, laser swords in space, and everyone's like, he's such a genius. He's such a genius. It really goes along with like Japanese mythos and. Yep. We'll sell toys of laser swords in space. In short, Star Wars has always had a huge impact in Japan, not only with fans but also on creators too, as without Star Wars we would likely not have had Mobile Suit Gundam, among many others. I don't know what that is. Probably a good thing. So, what makes this reaction to The Last Jedi so interesting are 2 major things. The first is that this is mostly independent of what is happening in the West due to the obvious language barriers, and the second is that the press are echoing what the fans are saying compared to the disparity we have on our side of the Pacific, I guess he means. That's because the Western press, in all of its forms, are just bought and paid for and in the pockets of the companies and the people that they're supposed to be criticising in every single genre, from politics to music. The main gripes are also similar to what fans in the West have been complaining about. In addition, the reviews from Japan, the Japanese press, have been somewhat mixed, with this particular piece being quite interesting. So there isn't, and it links to a piece there, obviously, which I'm not going to read here. Mate, hang on, I'll click that up. Doing that now. So there isn't this disconnect we are seeing in the West between the press and some fans over the film. Younger viewers also seem more upbeat about The Last Jedi, which is likely what Disney was intending here. However, older fans of Star Wars in Japan are mortified with what The Last Jedi has done to the Star Wars mythos. And let me tell you something, right? Young people, you don't need to appeal to young people. Do you know what I liked when I was 6? I liked sneaking RoboCop 2 and watching that brutally violent movie, okay? I liked Star Wars. I liked the way it was. You didn't need kids in the movie at all. You didn't need kids. Where's the kids in Star Wars? You didn't need them. You didn't need one of every colour. You didn't need... I could, you know, Darth Vader was like, as far as we knew, when I was a little kid, and only the originals were out, he was just like that old bald dude in the suit. You know, kids have no problem imagining that they could still be Darth Vader. Like, that's not how imaginations work. Alexa, volume 2. I'm sick of fucking shouting over you. That's not how imaginations work. And that's the problem with Disney these days. They don't understand, like, children and imaginations. They just understand draining as much money as they possibly can out of IPs and umbrella things. It's just, just such a corporation. Soulless. Soulless. They could be twice as successful if they didn't just drive at that endlessly. So yeah, but yeah, they will love it. I loved The Phantom Menace when that came out because I was like, I don't know how old I was, but I was a little kid, and I thought it was the best movie that ever came out. I thought it was better than the originals because you're a little kid and it's just Star Wars. It's when you grow up and you're like, what have they done to my series? But even then, like, George Lucas, now I look at the prequels and I'm just like, oh, they're incredible. Like, yeah, they're cheesy and the acting's terrible and some of the dialogue's horrible, but the stories themselves and what they actually did to the Star Wars universe, they expanded it, they made it feel bigger. It was all good, positive things in hindsight, and Revenge of the Sith is a legitimately great movie. I'm reviewing it, Anna. I'm reviewing it. I'm doing it again. Anyway, we're getting back to this article. While anecdotal, I have noticed that many of my friends have reacted to The Last Jedi with profound and abject disappointment. However, it is worth noting that again these fans are my age and grew up with the original trilogy. Yeah, but what's wrong with, like, Jesus, do you have to just become irrelevant once you're over the age of, like, 16? Like, what the like, can't we just, again, because it's just driven at just sucking money out of everybody. They're not just supposed to be children's movies. There's, like, executions and stuff in them. Like, not in the new ones, but in the originals. And again, children love them. Why is this, like, why did Disney want this huge IP? Because they know it's marketable to children. So you don't need to sugarcoat everything. You idiots. Children love Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. That's what children love. Morons. In terms of the box office, though, The Last Jedi had a decent opening weekend in Japan, and again, from my own anecdotal point of view, all the theatres near me in Tokyo have been sold out since the film was released. However, it's worth pointing out that something else here about the box office numbers. One of the main reasons why The Last Jedi has had a strong launch in Japan is probably down to The Force Awakens. Most fans in Japan didn't mind The Force Awakens. Once again, it's the exact same. You see, you can tell that this isn't a delusion. This isn't some conspiracy against this movie. Because the social justice is, like, crammed down your throat in every single scene. Like a fucking Soviet communist fucking propaganda movie. Okay? It's not just like an imagination in the way, like, these different people separated from through a language barrier having the same reaction. Most fans didn't mind The Force Awakens. I didn't mind that. I hate it now. I'll never watch that movie ever again. Why would I? The bad guy's dead. Everything in that everything that happens in that movie is meaningless and pointless. It might as well have never happened. But when it was out, and you know, I was clicking the movies on the videos on YouTube all year, or for 2 years, like, what is Snoke, Jar Jar Binks, all the theory videos. None of that matters. They're just dead. He's just dead. He was just they're all dead. Nothing matters. So yeah, none of us minded because we were like, we don't like a lot of things about this new Star Wars, but it could be a good jumping off point. We'll see who this Rian Johnson guy is. And then we got this. It's like, oh, alright, Rian Johnson was like sat in a trailer while Kathleen Kennedy was directing or something. Most fans in Japan didn't mind The Force Awakens so much. And in many ways, the success of that film has insulated The Last Jedi in its Japanese box office takings, which is why I really think people who predict like I think the next one will make its money back, but I don't think the next one's going to be a hit at all, unless they do some like real marketing shit in this. They're like, we're bringing Luke back. We've got a Luke clone. No, the one that died was the illusion Luke. He was like double. I don't know. They have to write Hamill back in somehow. So looking at the Japanese box office now for The Last Jedi won't really tell you much about how the film has been received here. The real metric is whether the next film in the series will do well, and that's something that is definitely not clear yet. Well, I don't think the Solo movie is going to do well at all. I might be wrong, but I don't want to see that idiot playing Han Solo. He doesn't look like him. They've done like this. I'm sure they've like CGI'd him up to look more like Harrison Ford, because there's like one picture they have of him that he looks almost like the spitting image, and you're like, yeah, I can see it. But on the poster and everything else, when you see it, he looks nothing like the dude. He's just a white guy with brown hair. Again, but that's Kathleen Kennedy. She's like, they all look alike. Just get him. Well, when he's just a white guy with brown hair. God damn it, make sure he has African ancestry. We need diversity. We've got one, but are there any transsexuals that can fulfill the... Oh, Kathleen, just please. You're fired. Get out of here. That in itself is pretty damning, considering the long-running popularity of Star Wars in Japan, and Japanese fans tend to have a long memory, because they live a very long time. So Disney and Lucasfilm definitely have their work cut out for them in Japan when it comes to finishing off this new trilogy of Star Wars films. Well, we're 2 movies in, and it's shit. So good luck with that. I was more optimistic. Well, of course I was, because I liked them at the time. But even if I was the age I am now, I'd have been more optimistic about Revenge of the Sith. I could go watch Attack of the Clones now. It's fine. It's cheesy, like I said. But you got Christopher Lee is in Attack of the Clones, man. It's great. Yoda flipping about like a fucking crazy toad thing. And instead we got like wacky Yoda from like messing up Luke's guard, but for some reason that's how he appeared to Luke, and it's like the puppet, and great, it's the puppet. Ooh, oh my god, it's Frank. You know what, Frank's it's his hand actually in there. Wow. You know, if you freeze frame it, you can see his finger sticking through the nose. No one cares. Okay? I'd have cheered more if it was like the flipping Yoda, but he was still like wise instead of like the jokey. Anyway, I'm reviewing it. So that's the Disney thing. It's Japanese. You know, it doesn't matter how much you try to lie to everybody, and I think Disney have put about like 300 to 400 million into the PR spin to the negative review. They've probably spent more on it than the movie. Try to bribe all these YouTube darlings. Angry Joe, you fraud. All these people, oh, I watched it again, it's just amazing. Well, actually, it all makes sense. None of it makes fucking sense. There is what until they can explain why Luke placed the location sorry of his whereabouts in R2 when he never wanted to be found, and even when it's like the gravest danger, he won't come back. Like, there is apparently no emergency that can convince him to return. So why did he... The entire... never mind. And it's... You're not going to hear me say anything that a million other people haven't said. But I'm sure it makes sense if you... You know, you just got to watch it 72 times and buy all the toys and buy the video games and then, you know, buy the loot boxes, and... You don't have enough Star Wars hats. If you had more Star Wars hats, you'd understand it. You fucking sheep. Just... They're not sheep, they're cows. They're just cows. When you see cows in those milking farms where they're just all sat in pens, like 5x5, just machines sucking from their teats. That's what all of you stupid Star Wars fans are, except the kids, who it's fine to love the film. It's made for you. But it's not that these films aren't even going to age as well as the prequels. Okay, because the prequels look terrible now. You look at them and you can tell a lot of it's like green screen. But again, when you just like when you don't watch them, except Revenge of the Sith, again, that's still a good film. I still like that, even the way it looks. I like it. The acting's slightly better and all that. But just thinking about the story of the prequels, like just off in mind when you reference them when you're talking about the greater universe and all that, everything makes sense in a way. And I mean, like for instance, the character arc of Palpatine is my favorite of all of them. I prefer, well, you know, prefer. It's just my favorite. But I thought it was better than Darth Vader, Anakin's, or Luke Skywalker's even. I love, him coming from that center when you first see him on that landing pad when they land on the Capitol planet in the Phantom Menace, and he's just stood there looking about, surveying the city, and his slow turn, like in the way that he plays everybody against each other. And of course, it has its holes in its story and stuff like that. But again, at the very least, even if the stories are inconsistent at times, at the very least, they make sense and add to the events of the other movies. You know, they build up, and at the end, maybe it's a bit ham-fisted and rushed towards the end of Revenge of the Sith as well. Quickly, get them on the planet, quickly, they split them up. You take this one, you take that one. But, again, it leads it up to the next film, and it makes sense. Palpatine is now the Emperor, that whole thing. That's how he gets Darth Vader. No! The terrible direction of George Lucas. No! But it makes sense. Whereas these are just, I don't even know. It's just lost, isn't it? I mean, it's J.J. Abrams. It's lost. Didn't know where the fuck he was going. I'll just write Snoke and then let the next guy use his creative. I think it's better if you let the guy interpret your ideas, and through that he will come up with something. And then all he gets, like, Snoke just dies, and she's space garbage and all that. Anyway, fucking enjoy The Last Jedi. Go see it, because you will, you fucking sheep. And you'll see the next one as well, because you idiots. Probably even go see the Han Solo one. I bet that's a surprise hit. I don't want to see it at all. Anyway, see you later.